In the heart of a bustling city where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and people rushed through crowded streets, there lived a woman named Victoria Langley. She wasn't just any woman. She was the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country. Her name carried weight, her decisions shaped industries, and her leadership inspired thousands. Yet despite her towering achievements, Victoria valued simplicity. On this particular morning, she decided to step away from her high-powered life for a few minutes to handle something very ordinary: updating her bank account details. Victoria had recently moved to a new address, and like anyone else, she needed to ensure her personal information was updated across all her accounts. One of those accounts happened to be with a well-known bank that prided itself on offering world-class customer service. The bank's advertisements boasted about their commitment to making every client feel valued, no matter how big or small their financial portfolio might be. It was this promise that had drawn Victoria to switch her accounts to this institution in the first place. Dressed casually in jeans and a blazer, Victoria walked into the bank branch located in the downtown area. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, so she left her usual entourage of assistants and security guards behind. To her, this was just another errand, a quick stop before heading back to her office. But little did she know, this visit would turn into anything but routine. The bank was alive with activity. Customers lined up at various counters, some chatting quietly while others tapped impatiently on their phones. A group of elderly women sat near the entrance, discussing their grandchildren as they waited for their turn. The hum of conversation mixed with the occasional beep of machines created a familiar atmosphere. Victoria stepped inside, took a deep breath, and approached the counter. A young teller greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, how can I assist you today?" she asked cheerfully. Victoria returned the smile and explained what she needed. "I recently changed my address and I'd like to update it here," she said, handing over her ID and a document confirming her new residence. The teller nodded and began typing on her computer. For a moment, everything seemed normal, but then her expression shifted slightly. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said hesitantly, "but for this kind of change, we'll need managerial approval." Victoria raised an eyebrow. Managerial approval? She hadn't expected this. Updating an address was such a basic task, something she assumed could be handled quickly. Still, she remained calm and polite. "That's fine," she replied. "Could you please call the manager?" The teller nodded again and picked up the phone. Within moments, a man appeared from the back office. He introduced himself as Daniel Hayes, the branch manager. Dressed in a neatly pressed suit, he exuded an air of authority. His handshake was firm, and his tone was professional. But there was something about him that felt distant, almost cold. "Ms. Langley, I understand you're looking to update your address," Daniel said, glancing briefly at the documents in front of him. "Unfortunately, due to our policies, I can't approve this request without additional verification." Victoria blinked in surprise. Additional verification? What exactly did that mean? She tried to clarify, asking why such a straightforward process required so much red tape. Instead of answering her question directly, Daniel launched into a lengthy explanation about compliance regulations and fraud prevention. His words were technical and vague, leaving Victoria more confused than reassured. As the conversation continued, Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Here she was, a loyal customer who had entrusted the bank with her finances, being treated like someone trying to pull off a scam. She decided to introduce herself fully, hoping it would help ease the tension. "Mr. Hayes," she began, maintaining her composure, "I'm Victoria Langley, the CEO of Technova Solutions." For a brief second, Daniel's eyes widened in recognition. Technova Solutions was a household name, a company whose innovations had revolutionized multiple sectors. Surely mentioning her title would prompt him to reconsider his stance. But instead of softening, Daniel's demeanor hardened even further. "I'm aware of who you are, Ms. Langley," he replied curtly. "However, rules are rules. No one is above them, not even CEOs." His words stung. Victoria wasn't used to being spoken to like this. In her professional life, people respected her authority and sought her approval. Yet here, in this bank, she was being dismissed as though her status meant nothing. The irony wasn't lost on her. The very institution that claimed to value its customers was now treating her like an inconvenience. Other customers began noticing the exchange. Some craned their necks to get a better view, while others whispered among themselves. The once quiet bank now buzzed with curiosity. What started as a simple task had turned into a public spectacle, and Victoria found herself at the center of it. Despite the growing audience, she refused to back down. If anything, Daniel's stubbornness only fueled her determination. She reiterated her request, emphasizing that she simply wanted to update her address, a task that shouldn't require hours of debate. But Daniel remained unmoved, repeating the same lines about policy and procedure. Frustration bubbled beneath Victoria's surface, but she kept her cool. This wasn't just about updating her address anymore. It was about principle. How could a bank claim to prioritize customer satisfaction when its own employees acted so rigidly? And what message did this send to other clients who might not have the same leverage as her? Unbeknownst to either of them, this confrontation was about to take a dramatic turn, one that neither Victoria nor Daniel could have predicted. As tensions escalated, the stage was set for a showdown that would leave lasting impressions on everyone involved. As the tension between Victoria Langley and Daniel Hayes grew thicker, the atmosphere in the bank shifted noticeably. What had started as a routine request was now spiraling into something far more intense. The other customers, who had initially been focused on their own transactions, were now fully invested in the unfolding drama. Whispers rippled through the room as people exchanged glances, trying to piece together what was happening. Victoria stood her ground, her calm demeanor masking the frustration brewing inside her. She wasn't used to being treated this way, not just because of her status but because of the sheer absurdity of the situation. Updating an address was one of the simplest tasks imaginable, yet here she was being stonewalled by someone who seemed determined to make it as difficult as possible. Her patience was wearing thin, but she refused to let her emotions get the better of her. Instead, she decided to take a different approach. "Mr. Hayes," she said firmly, leaning slightly forward to ensure he understood the gravity of her words. "I chose your bank because of its reputation for excellent customer service. I trusted you with my accounts, and now I'm asking you to do something that should take no more than 5 minutes. Is this really how you treat all your clients?" Daniel hesitated for a split second before responding. His face remained impassive, but there was a flicker of discomfort in his eyes. He adjusted his tie, a nervous habit, and replied, "Ms. Langley, I assure you we value every single one of our customers. However, our policies exist for a reason. They protect both the bank and our clients from potential risks." Victoria tilted her head, studying him carefully. "Risks? Are you suggesting that updating my address poses some kind of threat?" she asked, her voice laced with incredulity. "Surely you're not implying that I'm attempting to commit fraud?" The sarcasm in her tone didn't go unnoticed. A few nearby customers stifled chuckles, while others nodded in agreement. Even the teller who had initially greeted Victoria looked uneasy, glancing back and forth between the two parties as if unsure of what to do next. Daniel's jaw tightened. He didn't appreciate having his authority questioned, especially in front of an audience. In his mind, he was simply following protocol, something he prided himself on. Rules were black and white, and bending them, even for someone like Victoria, would set a dangerous precedent. But to Victoria, his rigid adherence to these rules came across as inflexible and impersonal. "Ms. Langley," he said, his voice rising slightly, "if everyone demanded exceptions, the system would collapse. We cannot afford to compromise on security, regardless of who is making the request." His words hung in the air, heavy and final. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Then Victoria spoke again, her tone sharper this time. "So let me get this straight. You're telling me that despite providing valid identification and proof of residence, you still refuse to process my request?" "That's correct," Daniel replied without hesitation. "Until all necessary verifications are completed, I cannot authorize any changes." Victoria stared at him, disbelief etched across her face. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This wasn't just poor customer service. It was outright defiance. And it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the message this sent to anyone watching. If a CEO, a person whose company generated millions in revenue annually, was being treated this way, what hope did the average person have? Realizing that reasoning with Daniel was futile, Victoria decided to escalate the matter. "Fine," she said, crossing her arms. "If you won't help me, then I'd like to speak with someone higher up. Surely there's someone in your corporate office who can resolve this issue." Daniel blinked, caught off guard by her demand. While he had dealt with difficult customers before, none had pushed back quite like Victoria. Still, he wasn't about to back down. Summoning his composure, he reached for the phone behind the counter and dialed a number. After a brief conversation, he informed Victoria that regional management would be contacted immediately. But instead of calming the situation, this only made things worse. As they waited for a response, Daniel's irritation began to show. He glanced at his watch repeatedly, clearly annoyed by the disruption to his day. Meanwhile, Victoria remained composed, though her expression betrayed her growing impatience. It was during this tense standoff that another employee stepped forward. Sarah Monroe, a seasoned banker who had been observing the scene from afar, approached the counter cautiously. Unlike Daniel, Sarah had a warm and approachable demeanor. She recognized Victoria instantly, not just from industry events but also from news articles highlighting her achievements. More importantly, she could see that this situation was spiraling out of control. "Ms. Langley," Sarah began, offering a sincere smile. "Please allow me to assist you. I apologize for any inconvenience caused today. Let's see if we can find a solution that works for everyone." Her intervention momentarily diffused the tension. Victoria turned to her, grateful for the change in tone. "Thank you, Ms. Monroe," she said. "I appreciate your willingness to help. All I'm asking for is a resolution to a very simple problem." Sarah nodded and quickly reviewed the documents Victoria had provided. Within moments, she confirmed that everything appeared to be in order. Turning to Daniel, she suggested they expedite the verification process to avoid further delays. But Daniel shook his head adamantly. "We can't bypass protocol, Sarah," he insisted. "You know that." Sarah sighed inwardly. She understood where Daniel was coming from. But she also knew that his inflexibility was damaging the bank's reputation right before their eyes. Before she could respond, however, the doors to the branch swung open dramatically. A tall man in a sharp suit entered, flanked by two assistants. It was Michael Carter, the regional director of the bank. Word of the escalating conflict had reached him, prompting him to rush over from a nearby branch. As soon as he entered, he assessed the situation with a practiced eye. Seeing Victoria standing at the counter, surrounded by curious onlookers, told him everything he needed to know. "Ms. Langley," Michael said warmly, extending his hand. "I'm so sorry for the trouble you've experienced today. Please allow me to make this right." Victoria accepted his handshake, though her expression remained guarded. "Thank you, Mr. Carter," she replied. "I hope you understand why I'm disappointed." "This shouldn't have been this complicated." Michael nodded solemnly. "Absolutely, and rest assured we will address this immediately." With that, he gestured for Daniel to join him in a private corner of the branch. Their conversation was brief but intense. Michael listened intently as Daniel defended his actions, but it was clear that his explanation wasn't cutting it. When they returned, Michael wasted no time delivering his verdict. Effective immediately, Daniel Hayes is relieved of his duties. As branch manager, Michael announced, his voice steady but firm. Gasps erupted throughout the room as employees and customers alike processed the shocking decision. Daniel stood frozen, his face pale with disbelief. Without another word, he was escorted out of the building, leaving behind stunned silence. For Victoria, the resolution came too late. Though vindicated, she felt drained by the entire ordeal. As Michael apologized profusely and promised to rectify the situation, she couldn't shake the feeling that this experience had revealed a deeper flaw within the institution. Little did she know this incident would spark a chain reaction, leading to significant changes, not just for the bank, but for everyone involved. And as she walked out of the branch, her head held high, Victoria couldn't help but reflect on the power of standing up for oneself. Sometimes even the smallest act of defiance could lead to monumental consequences. The announcement of Daniel Hayes' immediate dismissal sent shockwaves through the bank. Employees exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of how to react. Some looked relieved, as if they had long harbored frustrations with his rigid management style. Others appeared sympathetic, whispering among themselves about whether such a drastic measure was truly warranted. Customers, meanwhile, buzzed with excitement, speculating about what would happen next. The once ordinary day had turned into something straight out of a drama series, and no one wanted to miss a single moment. Victoria Langley stood quietly at the counter, her expression unreadable. On one hand, she felt vindicated. Justice had been served in a way that made it clear her concerns were valid. But on the other hand, she couldn't shake the lingering unease brought on by the entire ordeal. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the broader implications of what had transpired. How could an institution built on trust and service treat its customers so poorly? And why did it take such a public spectacle for action to be taken? Michael Carter, the regional director, approached her cautiously. His face was a mix of professionalism and genuine regret. "Ms. Langley," he began, his tone earnest, "I cannot express how deeply sorry I am for what you've experienced today. This is not the level of service we strive to provide, and I assure you, steps will be taken to ensure this never happens again." Victoria nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She appreciated the apology but knew that actions spoke louder than words. "Thank you, Mr. Carter," she said evenly. "While I understand that mistakes can happen, this situation highlights a much larger issue. Customer service isn't just about following rules. It's about understanding people and their needs. If your policies are so rigid that they alienate even your most loyal clients, then perhaps it's time for a change." Her words struck a chord with Michael. He had risen through the ranks of the banking industry because of his ability to connect with people, but over time, he'd grown complacent, trusting others to uphold the values he believed in. Now faced with undeniable evidence of systemic failure, he realized how far things had strayed from those ideals. "I completely agree," Michael replied. "You're absolutely right. Our focus should always be on the customer. Today has been a wake-up call for all of us, and I promise you, we'll use this as an opportunity to improve." As Michael continued speaking with Victoria, Sarah Monroe stepped forward once more. Her earlier intervention had already proven invaluable, and now she took charge of rectifying the original issue. With calm efficiency, she processed Victoria's address update herself, ensuring everything was completed within minutes. Throughout the process, she maintained a warm and respectful demeanor, making sure Victoria felt heard and valued. "Ms. Langley, thank you for bringing this to our attention," Sarah said sincerely as she handed over the updated documents. "We're grateful for the chance to make things right, and I hope you'll give us another opportunity to serve you better moving forward." Victoria accepted the papers with a small smile. While she appreciated Sarah's efforts, she remained guarded. Trust wasn't something easily regained, especially after such a glaring misstep. Still, she acknowledged the sincerity in Sarah's voice and nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Monroe. Your professionalism today hasn't gone unnoticed." With the immediate matter resolved, Michael invited Victoria to a private meeting room to discuss further steps. He assured her that the bank would conduct a thorough review of its policies and procedures, particularly those related to customer interactions. Additionally, he offered several perks as a gesture of goodwill: waived fees for life, priority access to new financial products, and even a personal relationship manager dedicated solely to her account. While Victoria accepted these offers graciously, she made it clear that apologies and incentives weren't enough. What mattered most was meaningful change, a shift in mindset that prioritized empathy and flexibility over blind adherence to outdated protocols. As they wrapped up their conversation, Michael promised to keep her informed of the progress they made in implementing reforms. Meanwhile, outside the meeting room, whispers continued to circulate among the staff. Many employees admired Sarah Monroe's quick thinking and professionalism during the crisis. By stepping in when tensions were at their peak, she had not only diffused the situation, but also demonstrated the kind of leadership the bank desperately needed. It didn't take long for word of her actions to reach higher-ups, including Michael himself. Later that afternoon, Michael called Sarah into his office for a private discussion. Sitting across from him, Sarah felt a mix of nerves and pride. She had simply done what she believed was right, but now it seemed her actions might lead to something greater. "Sarah," Michael began, leaning forward slightly, "what you did today was extraordinary. You showed incredible judgment and compassion, under pressure, and I want you to know that it hasn't gone unnoticed. In fact, I'd like to offer you a promotion to branch manager." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. "Are you serious?" she asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Absolutely," Michael replied with a smile. "Daniel's departure leaves a vacancy, and I can think of no one better suited to fill it. Your ability to prioritize the customer while maintaining professionalism is exactly what this branch needs. Do you accept?" Without hesitation, Sarah agreed. She knew the role came with challenges, but she was ready to embrace them. More importantly, she saw this as an opportunity to reshape the culture of the branch, to create an environment where employees felt empowered to think creatively and put people first. As news of Sarah's promotion spread, morale among the staff improved significantly. For too long, they had operated under Daniel's strict and often demoralizing leadership. Now, with someone like Sarah at the helm, there was a renewed sense of hope and possibility. Employees began brainstorming ideas for improving customer service, from simplifying processes to hosting workshops on effective communication. The energy in the branch shifted overnight, transforming it into a place where both staff and clients felt genuinely welcomed. For Daniel, however, the fallout was far less positive. Losing his job had come as a devastating blow, leaving him reeling with anger and shame. At first, he tried to defend his actions, insisting that he had merely been doing his duty. But as days turned into weeks, reality set in. Finding another position in the banking sector proved difficult. As word of the incident spread quickly within professional circles, potential employers viewed his inflexibility as a liability, and Daniel found himself struggling to rebuild his career. Eventually, he landed a job at a small credit union, a stark contrast to the high-profile role he once held. Though initially resistant to change, Daniel soon realized that this new position offered him a fresh start. Working in a smaller, community-focused setting forced him to adopt a more empathetic approach. He learned to listen actively, to see beyond the rules, and to truly understand the needs of the people he served. Over time, he became a better version of himself, one who balanced structure with compassion. Back at the corporate headquarters, Michael wasted no time addressing the systemic issues exposed by the incident. He assembled a task force to evaluate the bank's policies and identify areas where improvements could be made. Among the changes implemented were streamlined verification processes, enhanced training programs for employees, and a renewed emphasis on customer-centric values. These reforms not only helped restore the bank's reputation, but also strengthened its relationships with clients. For Victoria, the experience lingered in her mind long after the dust had settled. While she eventually decided to close her accounts with the bank, choosing instead to work with a competitor whose values aligned more closely with hers, she couldn't deny the impact the incident had on her perspective. It reinforced her belief in the importance of standing up for oneself and advocating for meaningful change, even when it felt uncomfortable or inconvenient. As she reflected on the events, Victoria realized that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance could spark monumental transformations. A single request to update an address had uncovered deep-seated flaws in an entire system, forcing everyone involved to confront uncomfortable truths. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, it was also filled with opportunities for growth, for learning, and for creating a better future. Little did Victoria know, her story was far from over. News of the incident had reached the media, sparking widespread discussion about customer service in the financial industry. Journalists clamored for interviews, eager to hear her side of the tale. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with her, praising her resilience and calling for greater accountability from institutions entrusted with people's livelihoods. In the weeks that followed, Victoria found herself thrust into the spotlight, once again, but this time, not as a CEO fighting for fairness, but as a symbol of empowerment and advocacy. And as she prepared to share her story with the world, she knew it would serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of treating every individual with dignity and respect. The days following the dramatic incident at the bank unfolded like ripples in a pond, spreading far beyond the confines of that single branch. For Victoria Langley, life returned to its usual rhythm, or so it seemed on the surface. Yet, the echoes of what had happened lingered in her mind, shaping her thoughts and actions in subtle but profound ways. Meanwhile, the fallout from Daniel Hayes's dismissal reverberated through the lives of everyone involved, creating both challenges and opportunities for growth. For Daniel, the weeks after his abrupt firing were among the most difficult of his career. Losing his job wasn't just a professional setback, it was a blow to his identity. He had always prided himself on being meticulous, dependable, and rule-abiding, qualities he believed defined him as a leader. Now, stripped of his title and facing criticism from colleagues and strangers alike, he struggled to make sense of what had gone wrong. At first, Daniel clung to his belief that he had done nothing wrong. "I was only following protocol," he would mutter to himself late at night, staring at the ceiling as sleep eluded him. But as time passed, reality began to sink in. The world had moved on, leaving him behind. Job applications went unanswered, or ended with polite rejections. Former colleagues avoided him, fearing association with someone whose name had become synonymous with inflexibility and poor judgment. It was during this period of isolation that Daniel began to reflect deeply on his choices. He remembered the way Victoria had stood firm, refusing to back down even when faced with his unwavering resistance. He recalled the whispers of customers, watching the confrontation unfold, their expressions ranging from disbelief to disapproval. And then there was Sarah Monroe, the colleague who had stepped in gracefully, offering solutions where he had offered only obstacles. Slowly but surely, Daniel came to understand that his downfall wasn't caused by external forces. It stemmed from his inability to adapt, to see the bigger picture, and to value people over processes. Determined to rebuild his life, Daniel eventually accepted a position at a small credit union in a quieter part of town. At first, he approached the role cautiously, unsure of how to navigate a workplace culture vastly different from what he was used to. Gone were the polished suits and rigid hierarchies of corporate banking. Instead, he found himself surrounded by people who prioritized kindness and connection. Clients greeted him warmly, sharing stories about their families and dreams. Employees collaborated openly, encouraging creativity and problem-solving. It didn't take long for Daniel to realize that this new environment demanded a shift in mindset. Here, success wasn't measured by adherence to rules but by the positive impact one made on others' lives. With each passing day, Daniel grew more comfortable embracing this philosophy. He started listening actively, asking questions rather than jumping to conclusions. When a customer needed help beyond standard procedures, he worked creatively to find solutions. Over time, he earned the trust and respect of those around him, proving that change, though challenging, was possible. Meanwhile, Sarah Monroe settled into her new role as branch manager with quiet confidence. Her promotion marked a turning point, not just for her personally but for the entire team. Under her leadership, the branch transformed into a model of excellence, earning praise from clients and corporate executives alike. Sarah implemented initiatives aimed at fostering a culture of empathy and collaboration. She encouraged employees to share feedback regularly, ensuring everyone felt valued and heard. Training sessions focused not only on technical skills but also on emotional intelligence, teaching staff how to handle difficult situations with grace and understanding. One of Sarah's most impactful decisions was introducing a customer appreciation day each month. On these days, the branch hosted free workshops on financial literacy, offered refreshments, and provided personalized consultations to clients. These events not only strengthened relationships, but also reminded employees of the human side of banking, a lesson many had forgotten under Daniel's leadership. As for Michael Carter, the regional director, the incident served as a catalyst for broader organizational change. Realizing that the problems at the branch weren't isolated incidents but symptoms of deeper systemic issues, he spearheaded a company-wide review of policies and practices. Teams of analysts pored over data, identifying areas where procedures had become overly complicated or disconnected from customer needs. Feedback from clients and employees was gathered and analyzed, leading to sweeping reforms designed to simplify processes and enhance service quality. Among the changes implemented were streamlined verification methods, reduced wait times for common requests, and increased autonomy for frontline staff to resolve issues without needing managerial approval. Additionally, a new program called Empathy in Action was launched, emphasizing the importance of treating every interaction as an opportunity to build trust and loyalty. Managers were trained to lead with compassion rather than authority, ensuring that employees felt supported in making decisions that benefited clients. These efforts paid off almost immediately. Customer satisfaction scores soared, and the bank received glowing reviews in industry publications. Employees reported higher morale and job satisfaction, citing the renewed focus on teamwork and purpose. Even competitors took notice, adopting similar strategies in hopes of matching the bank's newfound reputation for excellence. For Victoria, the aftermath of the incident played out differently. Though she appreciated the bank's attempts to rectify the situation, she ultimately decided to close her accounts and switch to a competitor. It wasn't a decision made lightly. She understood that institutions could evolve, but she couldn't ignore the lingering sense of distrust. The experience had left a mark, one that extended beyond the realm of personal finance. In the months that followed, Victoria found herself reflecting often on the lessons learned. She realized that the incident had taught her something invaluable: the power of standing up for oneself and demanding better treatment. As a CEO, she was accustomed to commanding respect and influencing outcomes. But this situation had shown her that advocacy wasn't limited to boardrooms or high-stakes negotiations. It could happen anywhere, anytime, and sometimes in the most unexpected places. Victoria also recognized the ripple effect of her actions. By refusing to accept subpar treatment, she had sparked meaningful change, not just within the bank but across the industry. News of the incident spread quickly, capturing headlines and sparking conversations about customer service standards. Journalists reached out for interviews, eager to hear her perspective. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with her, praising her resilience and calling for greater accountability from corporations. When Victoria finally agreed to speak publicly about the experience, she did so with purpose. Rather than focusing on the negative aspects of the incident, she framed it as an opportunity for growth, for individuals, organizations, and society as a whole. In interviews and panel discussions, she emphasized the importance of empathy, flexibility, and mutual respect in all interactions. Her words resonated deeply, inspiring listeners to reflect on their own experiences and consider how they might contribute to positive change. The media attention brought unexpected benefits as well. Victoria became a sought-after speaker, invited to conferences and seminars worldwide. Her story served as a powerful reminder that even seemingly small acts of defiance could have far-reaching consequences. Audiences listened intently as she recounted the events, nodding in agreement when she stressed the need for institutions to prioritize humanity over bureaucracy. Back at the bank, the transformation continued to gain momentum. Employees who once dreaded coming to work now looked forward to collaborating with colleagues and serving clients. Customers noticed the difference too, expressing gratitude for the improved service and personalized attention. The branch that had once been a source of frustration for Victoria Langley had become a shining example of what was possible when values aligned with actions. Through it all, one truth remained clear: change rarely came easily, but it was always worth pursuing. Whether it was Daniel learning humility and adaptability, Sarah rising to meet the demands of leadership, Michael championing reform, or Victoria advocating for fairness, each person played a vital role in reshaping the narrative. Together, they proved that even in moments of conflict and chaos, opportunities for growth and redemption could emerge, if only we were willing to embrace them. And though the incident itself was now a memory, its legacy endured, a testament to the enduring power of courage, empathy, and the belief that no challenge is insurmountable when approached with determination and heart. Months had passed since the unforgettable incident at the bank, and while life for everyone involved had moved forward, the lessons from that day continued to resonate deeply. For Victoria Langley, the experience became a pivotal moment in her journey, not just as a CEO, but as a person who believed in using her voice to create meaningful change. She carried the memory of that confrontation with her, not as a source of bitterness, but as fuel for advocacy and growth. Victoria's decision to close her accounts with the bank wasn't made lightly. It was a deliberate choice, one rooted in principle rather than anger. As she transferred her funds to another institution, she reflected on how the incident had opened her eyes to larger systemic issues within the financial industry. Banks often marketed themselves as customer-centric, yet their rigid policies and impersonal approach frequently left clients feeling undervalued. Victoria realized that this disconnect wasn't unique to the bank she'd walked away from. It was a widespread problem that needed addressing. Her reflections led her to take action beyond her personal finances. When invited to speak at a major financial technology conference, Victoria seized the opportunity to share her story. Standing before an audience of industry leaders, innovators, and policymakers, she recounted every detail of her encounter at the bank, from the initial frustration of being denied service to the dramatic fallout that followed. Her tone was calm yet passionate, her words carefully chosen to inspire thought rather than provoke defensiveness. "This wasn't just about me," Victoria began, her gaze steady as she scanned the room. "It was about something much bigger. The financial institutions we trust with our hard-earned money have a responsibility to listen, to adapt, and to treat every individual with dignity. When those responsibilities aren't met, it doesn't just affect one person. It erodes trust across entire communities." The audience listened intently, captivated by her vulnerability and conviction. Victoria didn't shy away from acknowledging her own emotions during the ordeal, her frustration, her disbelief, and even her fleeting moments of doubt. But she also emphasized the importance of perseverance. "Standing up for yourself isn't always easy," she admitted. "In fact, it can be incredibly uncomfortable. But when you do, you send a message, not just to the people directly involved, but to everyone watching. You remind them that fairness matters, that respect is non-negotiable, and that no system is too big to change." Her speech struck a chord, sparking conversations that extended far beyond the conference hall. Attendees approached her afterward, sharing their own experiences of feeling dismissed or mistreated by banks. Some were entrepreneurs frustrated by bureaucratic hurdles. Others were everyday customers tired of being treated like numbers rather than human beings. Each story reinforced Victoria's belief that the financial industry was overdue for transformation. Inspired by these interactions, Victoria decided to use her platform to advocate for broader reforms. She partnered with consumer advocacy groups to push for greater transparency and accountability in banking practices. Together, they drafted proposals aimed at simplifying processes, reducing unnecessary barriers, and empowering customers to hold institutions accountable. These efforts caught the attention of regulators, leading to discussions about potential legislative changes that could benefit millions of people nationwide. Meanwhile, back at the bank where the incident had occurred, the impact of Victoria's actions continued to unfold. Michael Carter, the regional director, remained committed to ensuring that the mistakes of the past wouldn't be repeated. Under his leadership, the organization introduced a new initiative called Customer First, designed to embed empathy into every aspect of its operations. Employees underwent extensive training on active listening, conflict resolution, and cultural sensitivity. Managers were encouraged to lead by example, demonstrating flexibility and compassion in their interactions with both staff and clients. Sarah Monroe played a crucial role in implementing these changes. As the newly appointed branch manager, she worked tirelessly to foster a culture of inclusivity and innovation. One of her proudest achievements was creating a feedback loop between customers and employees. Every month, she held town hall meetings where clients could voice their concerns and suggestions directly to the team. This open dialogue not only improved services but also strengthened relationships, making the branch feel less like a corporate entity and more like a community hub. Employees thrived under Sarah's leadership. They felt empowered to think creatively and take ownership of their roles, knowing that their contributions mattered. Morale soared as the branch consistently exceeded performance targets, earning recognition as one of the top-performing locations in the network. Clients praised the warm and welcoming atmosphere, noting how much easier it was to get things done without unnecessary delays or complications. As for Daniel Hayes, his journey of self-discovery reached new heights. Working at the credit union had been humbling at first, forcing him to confront his shortcomings and reevaluate his priorities. But over time, he discovered a sense of fulfillment he hadn't known before. Helping people navigate financial challenges gave his work purpose, and seeing the gratitude in their eyes reminded him why he had entered the banking industry in the first place. Daniel's transformation didn't go unnoticed. His colleagues admired his dedication and willingness to learn, and soon he found himself mentoring newer employees. Drawing from his own experiences, he taught them the importance of balance, how to uphold standards without losing sight of the human element. Though he occasionally wondered what might have been if he had handled things differently that fateful day, he refused to dwell on regrets. Instead, he focused on becoming the best version of himself, determined to make amends through his actions. Moving forward, the media coverage surrounding the incident also sparked a broader conversation about customer service in the financial sector. Journalists wrote articles analyzing the root causes of poor client experiences, while experts debated potential solutions on television panels. Social media buzzed with hashtags like "Customer First" and "Empathy in Action" as ordinary people shared stories of both positive and negative interactions with banks. The movement gained traction, prompting institutions nationwide to re-examine their practices and commit to improvement. For Victoria, witnessing this ripple effect was profoundly gratifying. She never imagined that a simple request to update her address would lead to such widespread awareness and change. Yet as she reflected on the events, she realized that sometimes the smallest actions could ignite monumental shifts. By refusing to accept subpar treatment, she had challenged not only the bank's policies, but also societal expectations of what constituted acceptable service. Her newfound role as an advocate brought unexpected rewards. Invitations poured in, from organizations eager to collaborate on initiatives promoting fairness and transparency. Victoria traveled extensively, speaking at conferences, participating in panel discussions, and consulting with companies seeking to align their values with their practices. Through it all, she remained grounded, remembering that her influence stemmed not from her title, but from her commitment to authenticity and integrity. Despite her busy schedule, Victoria made time to reconnect with Sarah Monroe. Their paths crossed during a networking event, and they immediately bonded over shared experiences. Over coffee, they discussed the progress made at the bank and exchanged ideas for future improvements. Sarah expressed her gratitude for Victoria's courage, crediting her with inspiring the cultural shift that had revitalized the branch. "You didn't just change my career, you changed lives," Sarah said sincerely, "including mine." Victoria smiled, touched by the sentiment. "We all played a part," she replied. "Change doesn't happen because of one person. It happens when we come together and refuse to settle for less than we deserve." Their friendship blossomed, built on mutual respect and a shared vision for a better future. Together, they brainstormed ways to amplify their impact, exploring partnerships that could drive further progress in the financial industry. Whether organizing workshops for employees or hosting forums for clients, they worked side by side, proving that collaboration was key to sustainable change. Looking back, Victoria couldn't help but marvel at how interconnected everything had been. What started as a frustrating errand had evolved into a catalyst for transformation, not just for herself but for countless others. From Daniel's redemption to Sarah's rise as a leader, from Michael's commitment to reform to the public's growing demand for accountability, the threads of the story wove together in ways she could never have predicted. And though the chapter had closed on her relationship with the bank, Victoria knew the journey was far from over. There would always be challenges to face, injustices to address, and opportunities to make a difference. But armed with resilience, empathy, and an unwavering belief in the power of collective action, she stepped confidently into the next phase of her mission. Building a world where every individual felt seen, heard, and valued. The ripple effects of that fateful day at the bank continued to spread, touching lives and reshaping perspectives in ways no one could have anticipated. What had begun as a seemingly ordinary request to update an address had grown into a movement, a testament to the power of standing up for oneself and demanding fairness. For Victoria Langley, it became clear that this incident wasn't just about her. It was a spark that ignited conversations, reforms, and personal transformations across industries. Victoria's advocacy work took center stage in the months following the conference where she first shared her story. Her speech resonated deeply, with audiences worldwide, inspiring individuals and organizations to rethink their approach to customer service and human connection. Banks, credit unions, and even tech companies reached out, eager to learn from her insights and implement changes within their own systems. She traveled extensively, speaking at seminars, workshops, and corporate events, always emphasizing the same core message: empathy is not optional, it's essential. One of her most impactful initiatives was the creation of a nonprofit organization called Empower Every Voice. The mission was simple yet profound: to educate businesses on the importance of treating customers and employees with dignity while providing tools to foster inclusive environments. Through this platform, Victoria partnered with experts in psychology, leadership, and organizational behavior to develop training programs tailored to various industries. These programs focused on active listening, conflict resolution, and creating spaces where people felt safe to express concerns without fear of dismissal or retaliation. Word of Empower. Every voice spread quickly, drawing support from influential figures across sectors. Entrepreneurs, educators, and policymakers joined forces, recognizing the urgent need for systemic change. Together, they launched campaigns aimed at raising awareness about the consequences of poor customer experiences, not just for individuals but for society as a whole. Stories poured in from people who had faced similar challenges, each one reinforcing the idea that small acts of neglect could snowball into widespread disillusionment if left unchecked. For Sarah Monroe, the former teller-turned-branch manager, life blossomed in unexpected ways. Under her leadership, the bank branch transformed into a model of excellence, earning accolades not only from clients, but also from corporate headquarters. Her innovative strategies, such as hosting monthly financial literacy workshops and implementing a Client Care Champion program, set new standards for customer engagement. Employees thrived under her guidance, feeling empowered to take initiative and solve problems creatively. Sarah's success didn't stop there. Recognizing her potential, Michael Carter promoted her to a regional leadership role, tasking her with overseeing multiple branches and ensuring they adopted the same customer-first mindset. It was a daunting responsibility, but Sarah embraced it wholeheartedly. She traveled frequently, mentoring managers and sharing best practices, always reminding them that policies were meant to serve people, not the other way around. Her bond with Victoria grew stronger over time. The two women collaborated regularly, combining their strengths to amplify their impact. Whether co-hosting panel discussions or brainstorming ideas for community outreach, they formed a dynamic partnership rooted in mutual respect and shared values. Victoria often joked that Sarah was the heart of their efforts, while she provided the voice. Together they inspired countless others to join the movement, proving that meaningful change required both compassion and courage. As for Daniel Hayes, his journey of redemption reached its peak when he took on a new role as a mentor at the credit union. Having learned the hard way about the importance of flexibility and empathy, he dedicated himself to helping others avoid the pitfalls he once stumbled into. His sessions with new hires focused on real-world scenarios, teaching them how to balance adherence to rules with genuine care for clients. He spoke openly about his past mistakes, using his experience as a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration. Daniel's transformation earned him recognition within the credit union community. He was invited to speak at industry events, sharing his story with humility and grace. While some attendees initially viewed him with skepticism, his authenticity won them over. By the end of each presentation, many approached him to thank him for his honesty and vulnerability. They saw in him a reflection of their own struggles and aspirations, a reminder that growth was possible no matter where you started. Back at EU. The original bank, the changes implemented by Michael Carter and his team, yielded remarkable results. Customer satisfaction scores soared to record highs, and employee retention rates improved significantly. Clients praised the institution for its renewed focus on personalized service, noting how much easier it was to navigate processes without unnecessary hurdles. Even competitors began adopting similar strategies, signaling a shift in the broader financial landscape. Media coverage of these developments highlighted the importance of accountability and adaptability in modern business. Journalists credited Victoria's initial stand against injustice as the catalyst for this cultural shift, framing her actions as a turning point for the industry. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported her, praising her resilience and determination to hold institutions accountable. Social media buzzed with hashtags like "Stand Up for Fairness" and "Our Service with Heart," as people shared stories of positive interactions with banks and urged others to demand better treatment. Despite the progress made, Victoria remained acutely aware of the work still ahead. She knew that systemic issues couldn't be solved overnight, and that vigilance was key to maintaining momentum. To ensure lasting impact, she advocated for policy changes at the legislative level, working closely with lawmakers to draft bills, promoting transparency and consumer protection. Her efforts led to landmark reforms, including stricter regulations on hidden fees and mandatory customer feedback mechanisms for financial institutions. Through it all, Victoria never lost sight of why she had embarked on this journey in the first place. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about creating a world where everyone felt valued and respected. Whether addressing a packed auditorium or chatting casually with a stranger, she carried herself with the same warmth and sincerity that had defined her from the start. People admired her not just for her achievements but for her humility and unwavering commitment to doing what was right. In quieter moments, Victoria reflected on the interconnectedness of everything that had transpired. That single visit to the bank had set off a chain reaction, affecting not only her life but the lives of countless others. From Daniel's humbling journey to Sarah's rise as a leader, from Michael's bold reforms to the public's growing demand for accountability, every thread wove together into a tapestry of transformation. And though the road had been long and challenging, she felt immense gratitude for the lessons learned and the connections forged along the way. One evening, as she sat in her office overlooking the city skyline, Victoria received a letter from a young woman named Emily. Enclosed was a heartfelt note expressing thanks for inspiring her to pursue a career in finance. Emily wrote about how Victoria's story had shown her that banking wasn't just about numbers, it was about people. Moved by the letter, Victoria realized that her legacy would extend far beyond the headlines and accolades. It would live on, in the hearts and minds of those who dared to dream bigger and strive harder because of her example. And so, Victoria continued forward, fueled by hope and driven by purpose. She understood that true change required patience, persistence, and collaboration, but she also knew that even the smallest act of defiance could ignite monumental shifts. As she stepped onto another stage, ready to share her vision with yet another audience, she smiled, knowing that the journey was far from over. After all, The greatest stories are the ones that inspire us to keep writing new chapters. Together.